Did Jesus really die on the cross? The controversial theory they don't want you to know. Imagine standing at the foot of the cross 2,000 years ago. The sky turns dark. The earth trembles. And there, nailed to the wooden beams, is a man many call the Son of God. Now imagine someone whispering beside you. What if he doesn't really die? It sounds shocking, even blasphemous to some. Yet, for centuries, scattered across dusty scrolls, forgotten tombs, and half-buried traditions, are clues suggesting exactly that. That Jesus of Nazareth may not have died on the cross, but survived. In this video we dive deep into this controversial theory, the surprising details in the Bible itself, mysterious Eastern legends, Gnostic writings hidden for centuries, and why this idea, if true, could change everything we know about Jesus, faith, and ourselves. The official story we grew up with. Let's start with what most of us know. According to the Gospels, Jesus was arrested, beaten, and crucified under Pontius Pilate. On the cross, after hours of agony, he cried out and died. A Roman soldier pierced his side to make sure he was dead. His body was then placed in a tomb, and 3 days later, Christians believe he rose from the dead. For nearly 2,000 years, this has been the foundation of Christian faith. The first doubts. But over the centuries, some have quietly wondered, did everything happen exactly as written? For example, crucifixion usually took days to kill someone. Jesus was on the cross only about 6 hours. Pilate marveled that Jesus died so quickly. When Jesus was taken down, the Gospels say his legs were not broken, which was unusual as Romans often broke the legs of the crucified to hasten death. According to the Gospel of John, after death, about 100 pounds of mixture of myrrh and aloes, which is an enormous amount of spices, mixed with oil and resin, was applied to Jesus' body. Some researchers say this amount was closer to a healing treatment than a burial custom. Strange details that have fueled centuries of speculation. The swoon theory. One of the oldest controversial theories is called the swoon theory. It suggests Jesus didn't actually die, but fell unconscious from pain, blood loss, and exhaustion. Placed in the cool tomb wrapped with spices, he might have revived, later appearing to his followers, who believed they were witnessing the risen Christ. To them it was a miracle. But some historians argue it was survival, not resurrection. Did Jesus travel east? Now it gets even more mysterious. Ancient legends from India and Kashmir speak of a holy man who came from the west. Some call him Isa or Yezusaf. The story says he taught deep spiritual truths, spoke against hypocrisy, and gathered followers. Sound familiar? Some researchers, including 19th century travelers, claim to have found a tomb in Srinagar, Kashmir, believed by locals to be the burial place of Yezusaf, whom they say was Jesus, who lived to an old age after surviving crucifixion. The tomb is known as the Rosa Ball Shrine. To this day, it is visited by those who believe Jesus did not die in Jerusalem, but traveled east to live out his final years. The Gnostic clues. Early Christian groups known as the Gnostics also left hints. They believed in hidden knowledge, and taught that Jesus' true mission was to reveal the divine spark within each of us, rather than to die as a blood sacrifice. Some Gnostic texts suggest Jesus could transcend physical death, or that someone else may have been crucified in his place, possibly Judas, according to the Gospel of Judas. Did Judas die on the cross instead? As we dig deeper into ancient writings outside the New Testament, we find an even stranger, more controversial theory. That Jesus was never crucified at all, and someone else took his place. One of the boldest versions of this idea appears in the Gospel of Judas, a Gnostic text discovered in the 1970s and translated decades later. In this version, Judas isn't the ultimate traitor. Instead, Jesus asks Judas to sacrifice the man who clothes me. Some scholars interpret this cryptic phrase to mean Judas was helping Jesus shed his physical body, or that Judas was made to look like Jesus and crucified in his place. It's an idea that flips the traditional story upside down. Judas, far from betraying Jesus, actually obeyed him out of loyalty, fulfilling a secret plan that only the two of them understood. Similar stories in other traditions. Surprisingly, this idea isn't limited to Gnostic texts. In Islam, the Quran explicitly says, "They did not kill him, nor did they crucify him, but so it was made to appear to them." Quran 4:157. Muslim tradition often explains this by saying, God rescued Jesus. Someone else, most often named as Judas Iscariot or sometimes Simon of Cyrene, was made to look like Jesus. That person was crucified instead, while Jesus was taken up to heaven. In these stories, Jesus remains innocent and untouched by the cruelty of crucifixion, and Judas' betrayal ironically becomes the path to his own doom. The Gnostic mystical meaning. Gnostic texts like the second treatise of the Great Seth describe Jesus laughing at the cross, not out of mockery but because his divine self was never truly harmed. The body on the cross, according to these writings, was only an illusion, a material shell, a substitute, or even another person mistaken for Jesus. To the Gnostics, the real Christ could not suffer physical death, because he belonged to the spiritual realm beyond the reach of pain and decay. This wasn't just about escape, it was about teaching that our true essence is beyond the physical body. Why would this story exist? The traditional story of crucifixion and resurrection focuses on sacrifice and victory over death. The Gnostic version instead emphasizes hidden knowledge, gnosis. The idea that salvation comes through awakening, not blood sacrifice. That the physical world and even death itself is an illusion. To early church leaders, these ideas were dangerous. They threatened church authority built on the narrative of death and resurrection. They taught people to seek divine truth inside themselves, rather than through priesthood and ritual. So, these writings were condemned as heresy and disappeared, until they were rediscovered centuries later. The lost years. Between ages 12 and 30, the Bible is silent about Jesus' life. Some traditions, like the Hemis monastery scrolls in Ladakh, India, claim he traveled to study with sages in India, Tibet, and Persia. Could this explain why Jesus' teachings share similarities with Eastern philosophies, like compassion, nonviolence, and inner transformation? If he survived crucifixion, could he have returned to the East where he once studied to live out his days? Scholars, skeptics, and believers. What do modern scholars say? Most historians argue there's no solid evidence Jesus survived crucifixion. Roman executioners were skilled. A spear thrust to the side would be fatal. The belief in resurrection appeared almost immediately in the early Christian communities. But even today, new books and documentaries keep the debate alive. Including some doctors argue death by crucifixion isn't instant. Collapse from shock could look like death. The quick removal from the cross and immediate burial gave opportunity for survival. Local traditions and ancient travel records can't be dismissed so easily. Why would it be hidden? Imagine the chaos in early Christianity if this story spread. Roman and Jewish leaders would see Jesus as a political rebel who escaped justice. Followers might divide. Was he divine because he survived or because he resurrected? Church authority built on resurrection would be challenged. Whether true or not, a narrative of survival could threaten both religious and imperial power. So some say the story was quietly suppressed, and only fragments survived in Gnostic texts, Eastern legends, and local oral histories. Why does it matter? Some ask, does it really matter if Jesus died or survived? For many it does. If Jesus died and rose again, it's the cornerstone of Christian faith. If he survived, it doesn't make him less extraordinary, but it changes the meaning of resurrection into a story of incredible human endurance and divine protection. And perhaps it could point us to what Jesus himself often taught, that the kingdom of God is not somewhere else, but within us. So, did Jesus really die on the cross, or did he transcend death, surviving to live and teach again? The truth may never be fully known, but maybe what matters most is the message he left behind. Love your enemies. Forgive endlessly. Seek the divine within. Help the poor and oppressed. Awaken your true self. Maybe the deeper miracle is not whether his heart kept beating, but that his message still beats within millions today. What do you think? Could it be possible? Would it change your faith or deepen it? Have you heard of Isa, Yezasaf, or the Gnostic Gospels? Share your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe for more hidden history, ancient mysteries, and spiritual questions.